Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. What a wonderful kickoff for the start of our summit. I would like to now introduce John Conger, Acting Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Installations and Environment since September 2012. John brings budget, policy, and management oversight of DoD's $850 billion property portfolio, which includes more than 500 installations, 500,000 structures, and 28 million acres of land. It's a lot of lawnmowers. As part of his duties, he develops policies to improve energy efficiency, increase renewable energy use, and promote energy security. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. John Conger.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. So I've been made to understand that I stand between you and lunch. It's an unenviable position, but they've also given me only 10 minutes to talk. I'm going to do my best to hit a couple of high points and leave you with some things to think about as you go to your networking session. The first thing, I thought I would share with you a little bit of news. I actually have two main rules of public speaking, one of which is don't make news, and the other one is don't use profanity. I'm going to try my best to meet both of those. The news that I'm going to share with you is old news. My portfolio grew a little bit a couple of months ago. The Congress passed a law that combined my job in the installations and environment world, which included facilities energy as part of the job, so the electricity, more or less, building efficiency, that kind of thing, with the operational energy portfolio, which is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Sharon Burke and the work that she did as the Assistant Secretary for Operational Energy, but we're talking about fuels and getting folks to the fight, et cetera. Those have been sort of mashed together in an Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy Installations and Environment. And you'll see that this mirrors what's done in the services. And the Army, Navy, Air Force already did things this way, and Congress directed that OSD manage the same way. So when I think about the energy problem now, I'm thinking about both facilities and operational energy, both electricity and other utilities, and fuels. Sharon and I used to talk about the issue, and we'd say it's about mission and money. Well, when you're talking about facilities, it's a little bit more money than mission, and when you're talking about operational needs, it's a lot more mission than money. But these two factors weigh in such a way that we're really talking about the Defense Department being selfish when it pursues these goals. They trying to get done what we need to get done, and we're trying to get it done for less. But they didn't ask me to come here today to talk about energy. They said, we really would like you to come and talk about climate change. Well, climate change is one of those things that, often is associated with energy, and certainly in my portfolio as the installations and environment guy, touches my portfolio an awful lot. It's about how do you deal with this risk, these new the changes that you're dealing with, whether it's your missions around the world or how your base is dealing with flooding or drought, et cetera. Let me give you sort of a DoD perspective on climate change. First of all, it is one of our strategic document, the Quadrennial Defense Review, and frankly, it just came out, the National Security Strategy from the White House. They all talk about climate change as an important consideration, as a threat multiplier. It affects things out there in the world. And so one of the main ways that we think about this problem is how does it change what you're going to have to do, what your mission is, what your job is going to be as you think towards the future. The other piece of climate change is it affects how you do it. If your bases flood, it affects your ability to perform the mission, to answer the call. If you're having shortages of water, it affects how you do how you deal with your bases. If you're dealing with multiple 90-degree weather days, it affects how you can train the troops They call them red flag days or black flag. I don't remember exactly, but the terminology is less important than the fact that you can't have folks go out there running if it's over 90 degrees, and that's important to training. And so as you have more and more hot days, it limits your ability to do certain things in the field. So let me talk about each one of those two pieces in turn. So let's talk about new missions for a second. As the climate changes, and once again, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a caveat. This is slightly outside of my portfolio. Climate change is something that touches a lot of different pieces of the department. And so the mission issues as far as what we're going to go out there and do in the world, how we characterize the strategic environment it falls inside of the Undersecretary for Policy's office and not mine, but I'm familiar enough with it that I can mention a couple things. So in the QDR, in the Quadrennial Defense Review, it talks about climate change as a threat multiplier. If there is drought and famine and that creates migrations and it creates instability in parts of the world where they're not necessarily able to, they have institutions that aren't necessarily as strong as they might be, and so those things weaken and create instability and are more likely to result in conflict. So it's something that we want to be watching. Is climate change the only factor that has an impact there? No. But it's one thing, it's one factor, it has an impact, and so it's one of the things that we watch. So, similarly, one of the effects of climate change are increased and more frequent storms. The data is out there. I know that there's debate. I don't want to talk about the debate. I'm less interested in that, but what we're interested in is what happens if we have more humanitarian disasters to respond to. That is, yet again, one of those mission issues that we have to consider, contemplate as we think out in there in the future. The third one that I wanted to mention in this context is the Arctic. So as the Arctic ice melts and more traffic goes through the North Pole, as the Arctic ice melts and thus more areas come out and become open for resource extraction, there's more activity up there, and more activity leads to stability issues. The department put out an Arctic strategy that really speaks to this stuff isn't happening. We're not really dealing with these particular issues right this second, but we are talking about building institutions, building relationships among those Arctic nations so that we have set the conditions for stability looking forward. When I talk about the how, then it gets to my bread and butter, because I'm the infrastructure guy. And we start talking about what do you do when you deal with flooding. We have bases that have flooding problems